In the previous video, I showed you how to add a soundbite to a game or an app so that when you hover over it here on the XMB, it plays it, the edited sound clip of your choice. Today, I'm going to show you how to do pretty much the same thing, but this time with the icon and how to change the static icon and make it into a nice animated one like these that I'm showing you here. The process is actually pretty straightforward and a lot more simpler than what you think, with some limitations. Of course, like the limits of your imagination, possibly the limits of your hardware, and of course your skills, but most importantly, that pesky limited amounts of allocated space that the PS3 has for these icons, as well as that music file. So we're going to tackle all of that along with the usual tips, tricks, and hints coming up next in the tutorial. Hey guys, welcome, and for those of you who are new or fairly new, welcome to the channel. Here today we have a tutorial, as I explained earlier, to show you how to do those animated icons. Now, this will work best, just as I mentioned in the previous video, this will work best for those of you who have a fully jailbroken and modded system, as you can FTP your finished file in to your PS easily, or just put it on a USB, and then using a file manager, you could just insert it to wherever you want, and it's really quick and simple, easy. Those of you who are on the Han exploit, you can still use this with a little bit more work. You'll have to take your game that's in package format, you have to unpack it, insert the file, repack it, and then install it into your PS3. Possibly have to delete the game that's already there first before you install it. As such, if you're going to do that, for those of you who are on Han, you should use a game that is fairly small. So maybe one of the old school arcade remastered games that are maybe 40 or 50 megabytes, or one of the indie games that are 100 or 200 megabytes. That way you don't spend a lot of time unpacking, repacking, installing, and all that stuff. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and let's get started. Now, I made two folders here on my desktop. I suggest you do the same. The first one, I named it Virtual Dub 64. Technically, you could call it whatever you want. You can call it just Virtual Dub or whatever. The second one, I call it PAM Tools. Again, you can name this whatever you want. In the description down below, I have some links there. And the first one will bring you to this site, which is the SourceForge page that holds the Virtual Dub downloads. Here you can download the one that pertains to you. There's the 32-bit version if you're on 32-bit Windows, and the link is right there. I'm on Windows 7 64-bit, which is down here, and so I downloaded this zip file. Also in the description, you will see the download for my zip file, and when you open that one, you will see two other zip files in there. Actually, one of them is a RAR file, but I still call it a zip file. So go ahead and extract those two from my zip and put them on your desktop as well. So when you're done, you should have these three zips, the one you downloaded from SourceForge and the two that you got from my zip file, which is PAM Tools and Virtual Dub FFM plugin. Let's go ahead and go over here to this Virtual Dub folder. Open up the Virtual Dub zip that you downloaded from SourceForge and extract, or just copy and paste all of the files from in there to this folder here you created. And if you note here, there's a folder called Plugins 64. Let's go ahead and close that. All right, if you're on a 32-bit system and you downloaded a 32-bit one, it'll say Plugins 32. Now go here to the Virtual Dub FFmpeg plugin zip file, open it up, and grab the folder that pertains to you. In this case, I'm on 64-bit, and this folder here is Plugin 64, so I'm going to grab the Plugin 64 folder from here and drag it over. And when I'm asked if I want to merge the folders, just hit yes, and that's it. If you're on 32-bit, you'll grab the Plugin 32 one. When you go in here, you should now have a folder called FFDLLS and a .vd plugin file. So these two should now be there. If you're on a 32-bit system, you'll have the same too. Now, the reason why we're adding these plugins is because we want Virtual Dub to have the ability to be able to be compatible with .mp4 files and .mkv files. Let's close that and let's move on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to open up the other folder. I called it PAM Tools. And let's go here to the PAM Tools zip or PAM Tools RAR file. And let's extract everything to this folder. All right, and there we go. Now, Virtual Dub doesn't need to be installed. It works right from its own folder, but this one does need installation. You're going to click on the pamtools.msi file and just follow the prompts. Now, I don't remember because it's already installed in my system and I did it a while back. I don't remember if it automatically just puts everything you need and installs right here into this same folder, which I think it does. If it doesn't and it asks you for a destination, you could either install it in the default destination, or you could just point it here to this folder you created on your desktop, so that way all the files are right here. So after that's done installing, your PAM Tools folder should look like this, and you should see all this cool stuff in there. And then we'll go ahead and close that, and let's go ahead and move on to the next step. All right, so before we get into the conversion segment of this video, I need to spend a few minutes in this section, in this segment, going over some really important information regarding you editing your video files and getting them ready for the conversion process. Going over this information will actually answer quite a few questions that people keep asking over and over again in the forums and everywhere else. So it's good that you know these before you begin that process, so you kind of get a good idea of where you're going with this. So the first thing is that whenever you're making these video files, keep the original dimensions of whatever video it is you're using. Don't change them. So if it's like a 1920 by 1080, keep it. If it's 1280 by 720, keep it. Keep the original dimensions. You don't need to change them right now. We're going to do that in the conversion process. The other thing is, don't skimp out on the quality. In other words, when you're editing these files, don't worry about the quality. As a matter of fact, you want it to look as good as how should I say, as good as you want it to be. Don't just, hold back and make the quality less because you're trying to save on, on the file size. That actually doesn't matter. Make the quality as good as you want it to be, because the file size doesn't matter either. So, for example, here I have Metal Slug Anthology Trailer. It's 32 seconds long and it's 19 megabytes. And you're probably asking, wait, it's more than 2.4. It's 19. The conversion process is going to take care of that. So don't worry about the size of it. It's going to get smaller later on. So if I already have it loaded on my VLC. When I play it, this is the dimensions of this is 1280 by 720. You can see it looks pretty good, although I don't have it at full 1280 720 display. If you happen to come across a video that's like 480p or 360p and you really like it, but it doesn't look good on your monitor, don't forget, we're going to scale this down to 320 by 176. We're going to scale it really small. And when those types of videos are scaled down really small to those types of dimensions, they tend to look a lot better. You can see I scaled this down quite a bit, and it even looks better still than it did before. So you need to keep that in mind. The other thing, and lastly, is that you're not going to be able to make a 5-minute video. These animated clips, if you want them to look good, really, they need to be no more than like 50 or so seconds, 45, 50, 55 seconds, right around there, minute tops. And that's if you don't use sound. Because if you go anything beyond that in length, you're going to have to hold back on the quality because it has to be below that 2.4 megabytes. And it's going to be so low that it's going to get very pixelated and you're not going to be able to make out what it is. If you're going to use sound, then honestly, 30 to 40 seconds max is where I would go. Now you can play with it later on as we go along and see, but you're going to find out that it's pretty much that. You can make it 10 seconds, 20, whatever, but yeah, if you want to use sound too, 30-40 seconds and keeping good quality, and so you can have a little bit of sound left over to work with. That's pretty much going to be your max. So anyway, I just thought I'd fill you in on that. Let's go ahead and let's get started with the conversion process. All right, so this conversion process is actually pretty easy. Just follow along. We're going to start off by opening up Virtual Dub, okay, and then go ahead and open your file, either by going through File and then Open, or you can just grab your clip and drag it into the window. Now, what I'm going to do is it's going to record the sound if I play it while I'm recording here. So I'm going to go into audio and I'm going to click on no audio. And by the way, you need to do this anyway. So now it's clicked on no audio. Now when I click play down here, it will play and the audio won't get in the way. But you do need to click on no audio. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. Then we're going to go over, after you click no audio, because we have to remove it, go over to File, and then click Save Old Format AVI. So right here, I'm going to click that, and then let's save it somewhere. I'm just going to save it straight to my desktop. All right, so now it's finished, and we're going to go ahead and close out of Virtual Dub. And here's my finished video. So we have the MP4, and here we have the AVI that we just created. We're going to close out a Virtual Dub. Let's go into PAM Tools folder, and we are going to open up the PS3 Stream Composer. All right, we're going to come over here to, you can either go to New or File and then click New, however you want. And here, just give it whatever name. I'm just going to call this mslug. Under clip name here for project name, same thing. I'm just going to call it mslug. All right, and then we'll hit next. Leave everything here as it is. Click finish. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we are going to go up here to video source. Click on open. And then we are going to find the AVI file that we just created. All right, so there it is, mslug AVI. Double click on it, open it up. Now what you want to do here is click one time on it only. And you want to come down here and look at the codec. And you want to make sure that the codec that's there matches one of these here on the list. Which usually, if you do it this way, it will be YUY2, which is good. It matches, so we're good to go. Now we're going to click OK. All right, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into Filter Setting. Click on this box for size setting. Click on the Settings box. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to change this first box to 320 in the resize boxes. And we're going to tab down, and now the next one below it, we're going to do 176. Also, you want to make sure that each one of these boxes has a 0. Click on Update, and then you'll see it changed the size over to 320 by 176, which is good, and then click OK. Now here, we leave everything else the same, and click OK again. Now we're going to go into Video Encoding Setting. Here, we are going to go and change this, the profile, to main. We're going to change the level to 2.1. And here are the bit rates. And the bit rate is what's going to determine the size of your clip, or the size of your PAM file. Now, before we get to that, go ahead and click on this green box, or on this little box, and turn it green. Then we're going to click on Advanced. Here, we are going to go into this box here, the entropy coding, and we're going to change it to CAVLC. We're going to go to multi-slice, we're going to change it to 1. And then we're going to make sure that both of these boxes say off. And we are going to uncheck all of these boxes so none of them should be green. And then click OK. Now, that's going to stay as is, and we can fool around with our average bit rate. Okay, so let's mess with the bit rates here. This is a small file. Again, 320 by 176. It's not going to take a whole hell of a lot of bit rates to make it look good, especially if your initial video clip looked really good like my Metal Slug one did. So just so you can see, let's make this 1000. And these numbers could be any numbers you want, the average bit rate and the peak bit rate, but I usually keep them the same. And again, they could be like 1000, 500, 460, 422, 522, whatever. But let's start off with 1000 and let's hit OK. Now come up here and you see where it says clip size. If you look at the number to the left of the /, that's going to tell you the final size of the PAM file. Here it's 4 megabytes, which of course is higher than the 2.4 that we need it to be, or less. So we are going to have to cut back on the bitrate a little bit more. And by the way, this is kind of an estimate, and it usually works in your favor. It's usually slightly higher, meaning that the final output PAM file might actually be like 3.7 megabytes instead of 4, which I know that doesn't sound like a lot of a difference, but when we're working with such small parameters, that makes a difference. So let's click on Video ENC settings again, and I'm going to cut it in half. You're probably thinking, damn, that's a lot to cut, but it's a small file, and the initial video clip it looked really good. So let's see. We're going to do 500, 500, and then we're going to click OK. And look, now it went down to 2 megabytes. It's below the 2.4, so that will work. Now, before I show this to you, I actually messed with this earlier today, and I found my sweet spot where the clip looked really good, and it gave me enough room to mess with the sound and add some sound, which I'll do, later on in the next video or whatever. So let's click on Video ENC again, and my sweet spot was actually 440 for this clip. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. And now it's down to 1.77, which is about 1.8 megabytes. When it finishes, it's really going to be around like 1.5 or so. So anyway, that's good for me. It leaves me a little bit of wiggle room to mess with the sound and add some sound. Now, after you get it where you want it, you're going to go to Run, and you're going to click on Create EP Map. You're going to make sure that this check mark is there. Now, if the check mark is already there, you don't have to click on it. You only have to click on it if the check mark is not there. When you click on it, open it up again and make sure the check mark is there. Then we're going to click on Encode Multiplex PAM Compose, right? That's what's actually going to make the file. So let's go ahead and click on that. And now the process has actually begun. All right, so once this is over, we can go ahead and close this. I would suggest if you're going to be experimenting that you just leave all this open, because then you don't have to open up the file or whatever again. You can always come back, click here, mess with it, and then output the file all over again. So let's go ahead and minimize this. This saves it to kind of a weird, out of the ordinary place. It's in your documents. So navigate over to your documents, go here into Stream Composer, go into Mux Work, M-U-X Work. And you see here I have SSX Tricky. I was messing with that one before, and here's the mslug one we just did. So let's go there, click into this folder again, and here is the PAM file. So what we're going to do is we are going to rename this ICON.PAM, all in caps. Okay, actually my bad, it's ICON1. There we go, ICON1.PAM. Hit enter. Now, if we want to try this out, let's go into our PAM tools folder that we had created earlier. Click on PS3 Stream Viewer. It'll open up this window. Go ahead and drag the PAM file there. And now let's click play, and it should play. And there we go. If it doesn't play or something, then that means it's not going to work on the PS3. If it works here, that means it's going to work on the PS3 as well. So there we go. We are good to go. Now all we need to do is transfer it over to the PS. So let me go ahead and get that started. And yeah, we'll move on. All right, so we have our PS3 going, and pretty much it's going to be the same as the previous video. This PAM file is going to go in the same location. Let me open up FTP, which those of you who have a fully jailbroken system will be able to do this very quickly. If you don't have FTP and you are jailbroken, you can just put the ICON1.PAM file anywhere on your USB stick or whatever that you want. Stick that USB into the PS3, and then using a file manager like the Multiman file manager or Irisman's file manager or whatever, you can go ahead and place the file wherever you want. And you can just follow along just so you get an idea if you're kind of new to this. We're going to go into dev HDD0, and then we're going to go into the game folder, and this is where all the apps are installed, the homebrew apps for the PS3, those of you who are jailbroken. If you also install any type of package game, whether it's a PS1 game, PS2, or PS3 game, as long as it was in package format, this is where it's going to install. And you can just look for the app or the game here. If you're not sure which one's which, you can always go inside of that folder. And if you're using a file manager like Multiman or something like that, just click on this ICON0 PNG file. That's an image. It'll show the image, and then based on that, you can figure out what game or what app it is. You can also drag this onto your desktop if you're using FTP, so you can look at it and figure it out. Your backed up games that are folder type, the PS3 ones, you can go to wherever you have them stored at. Here in my internal hard drive, they're stored, and they should be stored for you in the same place, in the games folder. And let's just use Grand Theft Auto as an example. This ICON.PAM file will always go in the PS3_game folder. Okay, it's always going to go there. And then just drop it in here. Right? You can see I already have one there for GTA. This is also the same place that sound file goes, which I showed you that yesterday. So today I'm going to go back into the game folder, and I'm going to use the file manager, the independent file manager from Managuns as an example. If we go here, okay, you can see the icon is just a static icon. And by the way, that's a custom icon that I made for mine. Let's go ahead and get out of it. Now I'm going to drag this ICON1.PAM file in there. And now when we go into it, you can see that our nice little animated video is playing. So that's pretty much it. And I have almost 1 megabyte of room to work with, so I can add sound. I think it's 0.8 or 0.9 I got left over. So anyway, that's it, guys. Oh, and before I go, this PAM file, you can put it wherever you want. I just put it with the Managuns independent file manager just so you can see it. Of course, I'm not going to leave it there. All right, so thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.